He's Howard Iback, former creative director and author of 2 books on the creative brief.
And he's David Moore. He's the creative director of Kingswood in Palmerston, which I'm reading, and the host of the AAF Ad Reads Book Club. And together, David and I are the Brief Brothers. We are back with another episode of the Brief Brothers. And before we get started, I have the distinct pleasure of announcing not only our guest, but our guest host. Henry is on the road for work. I think he's in Detroit. And sitting in playing Joan Rivers, for those of you who even know what I'm talking about, which really dates me, is our friend David Moore. He's calling in from Omaha, Nebraska, where he is a jack of all trades. And he was one of our earliest guests on the Brief Brothers. So David, thank you for volunteering to sit in.
Glad to be here.
So what David does a lot of things. He is a freelance creative director. He runs a virtual ad agency. He's been in the industry a long, long time. He also runs a book club, a virtual book club, which he started during the pandemic. And interestingly enough, he's going to be, this conversation may go over an hour, so we will have to say goodbye to David because he has to go host his show. And guess who's going to be his guest today? The very person who recommended our guest, Sherry Horowitz, Cameron Day. And they'll be talking about Cam's. Is that the second book or the first book?
This is number 2.
It's the second book. Okay. Yep. So it's just
also
like it's a small.
One.
Oh, wow. Okay. Well, I appreciate you got the right edition too. Good for you. So it's just a small world. Our world of advertising is just kind of a small community. So our guest today is Sherry Horowitz. She is known as the AI Conjurer. So that'll give our guests and our viewers a little clue as to what we're going to be talking about. And as I said, Cameron called me up and said, Howard, you've got to talk to Sherry. So we've had a conversation a few days ago, and this is going to be a great chat. So first of all, Sherry, welcome to the Brief Brothers. We're delighted to have you.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
All right. So as we usually do, we'd like to get a little bit of background about you so we know who you are. What was it that drew you to our industry of advertising? And then give us a little history of your career.
Okay. I actually never worked for an agency ever. But I have been in the arts like since I'm a young girl. I have an undergraduate. I'm like, who was it? I think it was David Ogilvy who like did 50 million things before he became the head of the agency. I am that creative person. So I was drawing fashion for my friends already in high school. My friend's mom was a seamstress, and I used to draw sketch stuff for her, and they'd have it made. So like my friends all would come to me for fashion design. I was in FIT for 5 minutes. I ended up moving. I ended up in another art school, and that art school did not have fashion, and I had to choose something else. So I chose advertising design because I always loved writing as well. And to make a long story short, I was a freelance graphic designer. And then when I had little children, it became way too messy to have paint or anything messy around. I could not do any physical art. And you can interview me another time about how I got into poetry, but I ended up getting a Master's of Fine Arts in Poetry, studying under some magnificent award-winning poets, publishing, winning some awards and note, and then being in and out of the creative field as a freelancer and a mom for many, many years. But I always loved advertising ever since I started that, I studied it when I couldn't do fashion. I was very fascinated with it. And now I'm at the point in my life where my children are grown and I really wanted to go into the industry. And so I opened up my own little shop. We'll just leave it at that. But I opened up my own little shop. I did, doing freelance work for businesses, small businesses generally. But when AI came around, I just was blown away because as a writer and someone who has a deep understanding of art, I studied art history when I went to school and all these, and advertising, I just saw the potential for so many applications. I also, as a freelance graphic designer, worked for companies that did product development. So it was just, there's so many applications. So I have literally spent the last year and a half completely obsessed with the AI tech, and become very, very adept at using it.
Okay, this is, to me, it's a good place just to interrupt, because I want to, because of the benefit that I had of having a conversation with you in advance, was to come to appreciate the many years that you spent as an academic and as a writer and as a designer that you've applied to your application of AI, and also to what you've shared with me about your teaching of AI. And I want the audience to understand how important all that background was. So you kind of blurred over that quickly, and I appreciate you trying to
Yeah,
go through
I
it
don't
quickly.
want to like,
I don't want you, I want you to kind of back up a little bit and talk a
Okay.
little bit about what became the foundation of your experience, that, because that'll help us understand what you're bringing to AI.
okay. I really think what gives me an edge, and once you see the work, you'll have an appreciation for how good I can master the machine. I am an artist, and I try to be a productive one, which is another reason why I'm in advertising, because that's where the money is. I'm sorry, let me just gather my thoughts.
Well, don't forget about your background in poetry, because you and
Yeah,
I share
yes,
that. We both
yes.
have degrees in poetry, advanced degrees, and that is so important. Because in other words, you're
Yes.
well-read. You're
Yes,
well-read.
correct. So I was going to get there. I was just trying to figure out how to say it. No one ever asked me my personal story, and I never had it recorded. So it's like, I have to figure out how am I going to present this to the world. I am a poet. I have been
Mhm.
fighting it my entire life. I don't even
No,
tell
don't do that.
people. I don't even tell people that I'm a poet. I have published quite a bit of work. And I was nominated for a Pushcart Prize for one of my
That's
poems.
awesome. That's
I've been
wonderful.
anthologized. It's just poetry is so out there, and everyone's like, what the heck are you going to do with that degree?
You can swear on this show, by the way.
I don't swear. I have children. I have to be a good example. But like, what are you going to do with that degree? Everyone's like, they were driving me crazy. Like, what are you going to do with that? When you're that kind of person, you just need to channel it. So it's whatever the medium is, it's crayons, it's watercolor, it's fashion design, it's product design, it's poetry. It's just really who I am. But I did spend 10 years immersed in poetry. And I am a voracious reader. So, philosophy, religion, politics, technology. I read tons, and I do bring that into the work. And I actually been posting about it this year. I decided that I'm going to lean in and teach only on an advanced level, because I saw that it was so difficult to teach what I do on a superficial level. There's tons of people teaching it. There's tons of information out there. This is a little bit of a plug for myself to let people know that
That's fine. That's great.
I am only teaching advanced level people. I'm only teaching. This is how I met Cameron. He reached out to me. I was posting about it, and I said, we got friendly. Actually, he sent me his book, and we just started schmoozing. And I said, Cameron, you really are my ideal client. And would you let me coach you? Because I had this challenge up. Can I teach it in 2 hours to a creative director? Because I could not teach it to graphic designers. They don't have enough language skills. They don't have enough sense of history. I'll get into why that's so important. But it is quite difficult to do when you break it down. And poetry definitely gives me an edge.
This is important, because I want you to address, I think, what a lot of people are concerned about, which is, what is your role as the artist, and what is the machine's role, and who controls what?
Oh my gosh. When you see if you sit down and try to use it intentionally, you will be very quickly frustrated.
Mhm.
And if you have any chance to use it, why there's this is also the reason why I'm only teaching on an advanced level. The what's amazing, and I only use Midjourney right now. I don't use the open software. I don't use Stable Diffusion or Dolly because I find them to be horrible, and my prompt design does not work in those systems. Why that is another, we could talk about that later. You'll see that it's extremely difficult to get things intentionally, but there's a misconception is that because Midjourney is so sophisticated and they've codified the coherency of art to such a high degree, whatever you put in there, you're going to get something amazing. So people are plunking around on there all day and they're getting cool things. And it's like, wow, anyone can do it. But really, no. When you want to do a brand aesthetic in an hour, which I will show you, what goes on into that, no, that is not doable to the average person. When
So
you
what you're saying then, Sherry, is clients who think they can dismiss the need for creatives and type in the prompts are going to be seriously disappointed.
seriously disappointed after a while. There's very few people who I know who can manipulate it to the degree that I do. I know them
Well, I know that.
personally.
I mean, I know that from my own experience. I did something, and I work on ChatGPT because I'm just looking for help with words. And I have asked ChatGPT to, where can I find? Can you verify the sources that I've used here? And it says no, but we can give you some keywords, and you can go look for it on the internet. It's like, well, that's not helping me. Now, I didn't follow up with more articulate prompts. I could have, I didn't, because I had 5 minutes. I was just going to try it. I've asked it to give me the winning lottery number. That doesn't help.
To that point, and I'll go off and you'll bring me back again. But to that point, I am actually working now with Marshall McLuhan's grandson, Andrew McLuhan, building a course together about this because the mindset that I teach and the tactics that I teach in the advanced level is completely transferable into any AI system, ChatGPT included.
Okay, all right.
And I will break it down for you. Would you like me to do it now?
Well, see, I'm just wondering.
Or would you want me to just blow your mind with some super fabulous images?
I do want to see some stuff, and I've got a feeling that David's kind of chomping at the bit here with a question or two.
Fine, doing fine.
I do not take anything like an assault. Like you can question. I have these arguments all day with people questioning me on LinkedIn, so I'm pretty good with whatever you'll
And I'm all in because I don't feel threatened by this at all. And it's probably because I'm no longer a practicing creative, but I am a writer. I'm a practicing writer. I publish words, I write books, and I do use the tool to help me write marketing material. I don't need it to write a chapter because I'm writing memoir, and ChatGPT can't write memoir because it doesn't have a life. It can make up other people's lives, but it can't write my life.
I find ChatGPT quite annoying, actually.
Well,
I use
haven't played around.
I don't.
Oh, hell, it's listening.
Like hell.
Well,
no,
it's
a slate of hand. It's a slate of hand. It's a dumb machine.
We had Tim Brunel as a guest on, and Tim is a creative director in Minneapolis, and he's a smart guy, and he used ChatGPT, the paid version, to create a tool for himself called the Creative Brief Coach. And then he taught the Creative Brief Coach to help others write a creative brief, and he used as his template the get to by template, which is, I think, a brilliant way to write a brief, but it's also a very advanced, sophisticated form of a brief. And for marketers who only write an occasional brief, it's probably too sophisticated. There are simpler templates than to get to by, but he showed how it could work, and he did it in 20 minutes. So he demonstrated the practical applications, but it was not something that was a substitute for the human mind. It was a tool to help a smart, astute, experienced writer do better. I haven't had a conversation, and I can't speak for Henry and I can't speak for David, but I haven't had a conversation with someone who's done the art side of it, which is, I mean, if I could prompt a smart piece of software to draw something for me and do it well, oh my goodness, that would be so cool.
Here's
It
the
wouldn't mean that.
problem. Yeah, here's the problem, Howard. Here's the problem. This is where it is so difficult to teach people. You have to be really deft and adept at many layers of interpretation. Okay. Curatorial thinking and layers of interpretation. So let's start with where the data is coming from. The internet, Google search index, SEO tagging. Then that's all dumped into an algorithm, which has this tree-like rhizomic structure.
A what structure?
Rhizomic, like tree-like, okay? Associative, branching, and how all that is dumped into that kind of system, okay? If you look at an algorithm, it's like, whoa, all that association. And then you've got language, which is always ambiguous from a linguistic point of view. You've got the types of language, never mind that you have all kinds of languages. You've got levels of language, technical, prosaic, poetry, literary, code, because now it ends up by engineers in this coded way that you access it. But to top it all off, you need to be a visual artist, be able to describe the visual narrative, interpret where to deploy each style in the right moment, and how it might have been stored. And then you have to understand data sets, parameters, biases, history, culture, genre, choice of word. Is it a buffet, a feast, a dinner? Is it a robot, a cyborg, an android? I mean, it's complicated.
I'm getting a headache.
It's complicated I can't even teach it. I can't even teach it.
So it sounds like, dare I say, the problems or the challenges with AI for art are the same problems that we have with almost any other piece of technology. It's only a tool, and the real problems are with the people using it and how people use it. And
Correct.
to Howard's point, when somebody at some bean counter to come, oh wait, I can wipe out a whole level of humans and just replace them with this computer. It's garbage in, garbage out. Like every project management system I've ever had to use is only as good as the people inputting the data into it.
And not
So
only
how do we
that,
get people smart?
correct. And not only that, if you think about a template, how often is a template useful? Is a template ever really useful? Like it's a template for something. I think that's why DALL-E is so useless. My prompts don't work in DALL-E, and DALL-E gives you garbage. I don't know why. I haven't investigated the actual technical design. I learn from the machine. Okay, Midjourney and we go back and forth. I'm like, oh, okay, you mean that? Fine. Let's move you over here. Let's try it like this. But to be fair, Midjourney is building something incredibly advanced and sophisticated because, especially with their latest engine, the large language model is very nuanced. So it's harder to prompt now than it was.
Okay, Sharon, let me stop you because it sounds to me, and I want to give you a chance to address this. It sounds to me you're making like a really good argument why not to use it. Is it because it's too fucking hard?
It's not really if you learn from me.
Okay, all right. Well, let's just say that I've taken your class, whether it's 2 hours or 20 hours or whatever it is.
Yes.
I don't have a background in poetry. I'm just going to pretend I'm someone else.
True,
I don't
but you're a writer.
have
You're a writer.
Yes, I'm a writer. Let's say I'm a graphic artist or I'm art director, but I don't have background in history. maybe I took some art history class in design school. Maybe I have a bachelor's degree. Maybe I don't. I don't have the breadth of knowledge that you bring to this. And clearly you are an exception to the rule, if there is,
Okay,
because it's so
okay,
new.
fair point.
So you have to, and I want to give you the opportunity to advocate for this, because as I said, I'm on your side. I think this is a powerful helper. So it requires, like anything else, you got to learn the skills. You have to get that into your muscle memory so that at some point you're not thinking about it anymore, you're doing it. It's like
Correct.
everyone has to learn how to swing the tennis racket or swing the
Yes.
baseball bat or swing the golf club. And at some point you stop thinking about it and you just do it.
I think,
How
yeah.
long realistically, how long is it going to take for someone to really master these skills?
I don't know. I've been working with Cameron now and Jordan Brady, who is a commercial movie film director, as a commercial business. I think he works with a lot of the agencies. I just spoke to George Tannenbaum yesterday. I don't know. We'll see if he'll take the time to learn about it. I believe that anybody, especially at our age, has enough life experience in the industry, is well read enough, especially creative directors are very good writers. And art directors generally are as well.
Mm-hmm.
Art directors will have an easier time translating the visual language into a narrative. And a writer, depending on their level of visual capability, can learn it. And they will come, and everybody will, like every tool, everybody will bring their strengths to it. I can already see certain artists who are very high level using AI. I already know their style. And you can see the same way you see a poet has their voice,
Right.
you will start to see that emerge. I am a cerebral person. I am a lot of fun. I love fashion and glamour. You will see a lot of my work. I already see in my body of work my personality emerging, the things that I'm interested in, the things that I love to figure out and design. But there's a guy, Marco Morales, he's doing, gaming stuff, and he has this whole sci-fi universe that he built, and, gorgeous work. And there's a guy, I forget his name now, but he's an interior designer and another architect. I mean, these guys are at the top of their game. They're doing incredible things. They do have good writing skills, and they've figured out the nuances of the tech. The nuances of the tech are not difficult to learn. It's learning a little coding. It's like the way we all learned Photoshop, right? It takes time. It's the techie part of it, like, okay, how do I structure this? What do the little doodads mean? How does it work? But then you get to use the machine and you learn it. It's just this back knowledge that helps you make really fabulous imagery.
You're not really saying though that a young person can't benefit from learning how
No,
to
a
do
young
this.
person can do it. They will have
Okay.
to learn a little longer
Okay.
to be really adept.
Okay. Well, so let's say I sign up for the Sherry Horowitz School of AI, and I do the 2 hours or 20 hours or whatever it is.
Right.
And let's say I'm 25 years old. Let's say I'm not brand new, but I'm kind of new. I've been an art director for a couple of years.
Okay.
What's in it for me? What am I going to get out of this? That I couldn't do without these AI skills if I didn't have them.
Oh my gosh. You 10x your efficiency. Whereas like it would take me 3 days to like paint something and Photoshop it and Illustrator and all those things. And then like the client's like, oh, I don't like that little thing. And you're like, oh man, I flattened all the layers. I don't even remember which filters I used. I can't even undo it. Like, oh man, I gotta like spend another week redoing this one stupid change. Like now it's so what? Great. Let's do it. I have like 100 ideas after 3 days of work.
Have you ever heard the term inefficiency?
No.
You can either have efficiency or you can have innovation. The more efficiency you have, the less innovation you have. The more innovation you have, the less efficient it is. So I worry when we start saying, oh, it's going to be more efficient. I know we're in a business, but it sounds like shortcuts. And I
Well,
worry that
well, why
shortcuts,
don't I show you what I mean?
okay?
Would you like me to
Nice,
share it on
nice,
screen?
nice segue. Nice segue, Sherry.
Okay, so this is like a little ad that I started creating for the courses that I'm going to teach. And I'm probably going to put this in a newsletter as well to offer like a newsletter service with like a lesson every 2 weeks or a month. But this is what I want people to wrap their heads around, is that when you know how to prompt fluidly, and like right now I have over probably 30,000 images already, which is like thousands of case studies. But I know how to get these images now. So you could, if you knew, this is a bit exaggerated in an hour, and I may change it, but the in an hour was this lesson. Truthfully, you probably need a week because it's time consuming to iteratively work with the machine. There's still a time consuming factor to it, but this is something I created to show that you can create a photo shoot with some fashion design. This is very, very rudimentary. I have thousands more pictures to show you, but just to give you a little bite-sized idea.
Well, hang on.
Yeah,
Don't scroll
okay.
yet. Go back. Because if David's not going to ask, I'm going to ask, or I'm going
Okay.
to say, she looks fake.
Totally.
Okay,
It's the uncanny valley. She just does not look real.
and that's fine. I have other ones that you would not know that they're fake.
But let's stop here and just
But,
say,
but you don't have to use this as the final polished asset. Although I
Okay.
have sold images to companies that looked real. This is a bit of an older engine that they used on their websites because it looked so real.
well, let me ask you this, Sherry. Do you agree with me? Do you think she looks fake?
I think that she looks like any other Vogue fashion model. But because you're seeing it and it's AI, I think that there's a little bit of a bias to that, but that's fine.
Well, no, as I got to admit, I took a test that was either posted on New York Times or Wall Street Journal, because I read both, and it was a quiz. Can you pick out the real from the fake? And I only got 2 right. So I
I
bombed.
got 4. I got 4, but that
Good for
I
you,
didn't
Dave.
get
just
them all.
know that
I didn't
people
get
are
them all.
biased when they know it's AI and they say they think it looks fake, which is fine because I could show you. I've done these tests with audiences and graduate level classes, and they pick mine over the award-winning ad.
Okay, I will
Just saying.
confess. I will confess that I recognize that there's a potential for bias here. I'm not going to deny that, because
Which
you
is
just, you know,
fine.
yeah. But I'm just
If this
saying
was in
that.
Vogue, you would not question that she was real.
Oh, I
And
know.
touched
Well,
photo
maybe.
touch.
Yeah, right.
Give me a little.
It's
Give me a
fine, it's
little.
fine. Let's go further, okay?
Okay.
So
All right.
this is basically the idea of what you might learn. So a photo shoot idea prompt for fashion industry, a package or fabric design aesthetic as a prompt. This is just for, let's say you wanted to create a line of fashion. And then I'm going to show you something else. Okay, you see this woman
Yep.
with the
Yes.
green dress? Okay. But
Yes.
what I was showing you was much more minimalist, like just an idea of how to use the tech. Here, I actually went and designed clothing for a line. So that, imagine you were running a fashion company. Yes, they might look a little fake. You don't have to use these, but what you could do is you can take this, you don't have to make the product. You don't have to pay money for a photo shoot. You can actually take this to the department store and say, hey, what do you think of this line? Would you buy it?
So your point
So-
here is we're not, it's not the model that we're presenting here. It's the clothing on the model.
Yes. Now,
And I would say,
this,
I don't know about you agree, if you agree or not, David, but these models look a little less AI than the first one did.
I think they look a little fake too, but you know what?
Not as much, not as much.
But you know what? Even if they do, so what?
Yeah, because they're not the focus of this point. The point is to show the
Right.
clothing, right?
The point is the clothing, but you know, there are some times where I do get it super dead ringer on and it looks really real. So
There we
just
go.
to finish my idea of what I was trying to show you is that you can technically create the print for the fabric, figure out what kind of model you want to use. Here's the prompt.
Wait. Let's look at that prompt. Let's look at that.
Yeah.
Black and white extreme close-up, Audrey Hepburn style, luxe fashion, beachy, powder blue, dramatic, fine millinery, dashing, elegant, vogue. Okay, so let me ask, because this is like so fundamental that it may be laughable. Does the punctuation matter when you put these prompts in?
It has certain values.
So if I used a semicolon rather than a comma, would that have any impact?
No, I don't think so, but.
Okay, because when you do a Google search, sometimes if you use a plus sign, which you don't really need to do anymore because it's Boolean logic, it's built into Google. But it used to be you'd add that to refine your search. You don't need to do
Right,
that
so
anymore.
this would be getting really technical on how to code it.
But I have, this is a great opportunity to talk about one of the questions that I have, which has to do with one of the fundamental issues or what we have with AI and art is the copyright.
I'm
So
not
for
going, I'm not
example,
going there, I'm not
for-
going there in this conversation. I'll do it later.
I don't know how you can not go there in this conversation though. So here's the point. Being in
Okay,
the
go
ad
ahead.
agency world, one of the famously things people would say, like we're trying to get a voiceover or something and say, oh, I want a whatever name famous person style. Okay, you can't put that in writing. There's a famous Bette Midler sued Ford Motor Company and won because they said they had in writing, we want a singer that sounds like Bette Midler.
And the exact language was, we want and she sued because it was the Bette Midler timbre. Timbre was the key
I
word.
mean, she sued because it looked like her. It sounded like her.
Sounded like her. Sounded like her.
Oh.
Because they well, apparently they had actually asked her first and she turned them down.
Right.
So then
Okay, so it
they
is a
put
fair
internal.
question. It's not that I don't want to talk about it. It's just going to take us far away from what I'm trying to show you now. And it's another whole podcast.
Well, we still need to address these
You can
facts
address it,
because
it's just, it ends up becoming a legal fair use conversation. And it becomes a training versus output conversation, which is a de minimis argument, which is a whole long legal discussion. And I've been having discussions with IP lawyers about it. It has to do with US copyright law, and I'm not a lawyer, so it's difficult for me to defend it. It is
I
an
understand. I
issue.
understand that.
It is an issue. I'm not avoiding it.
Okay, because I just want to be.
But
I want
if
to
I
be.
didn't tell you Audrey Hepburn was in here, you wouldn't think this was Audrey Hepburn per se.
No,
Okay?
I agree.
I
That
use
doesn't.
Audrey Hepburn as a style because it's trained to understand a certain look. Whereas if I put in no model, you get the look of those ladies that you saw before, which all have sort of a generic model-esque look.
But on the other hand, now that I see the words Audrey Hepburn, I do see a little hint of Audrey Hepburn in that face.
Right, but
So
you have to understand.
the reason that we need to talk about this, and I speak to this to myself as an owner of intellectual property, because I'm the author of 2 textbooks, I'm very protective of my work. And even though I too have fair use examples in my books, I use brands and I use pictures of brands as a teaching tool. I'm sensitive to Google copying my book, and they've done enough chapters where I get nervous, but then they stopped. And one of the organizations of which I'm a member, the Authors Guild, has sued on behalf of authors like me for this very topic. So it's relevant, but I still think that what we're talking about here is so important as a tool. We just have to be aware of.
Yeah, so that's why it's not that I'm
crossing the
avoiding
line.
talking about it. It's just I want to talk about what it can do, and then we
Right.
could talk about that. It is an issue, but I still think it can be handled properly.
Okay. All right.
Okay,
Let's keep going, because this is.
just in short, I'll say training does not equal copying. And that also requires you understanding how the tech works, which is quite complicated. So that's why, it does get transformed as bazillion data points, and the way it's called noise. And I'm not even an engineer, but let's just leave that for now. I
Okay,
agree
yes.
that it's something to be talked about.
All right, keep going.
But the point is also that when you write Audrey Hepburn, you're also tapping into everything she ever wore, not just her face. She was a style icon.
Mhm.
She's a public persona. Public personas have a fair use category to them. I did research that. In the end of the day, if I don't show you the prompt and you don't recognize that I'm ripping somebody off, that's really all that matters. And I'm not looking to rip people off. That's not what I do.
Well, I also think it's an unfair criticism to simply dismiss the technology because we're borrowing from something else. Everything that exists in human knowledge was built on something else.
I have libraries of books on the ad business and it's the same thing, but it becomes a,
We
line.
recycle ideas, we
Yeah.
make them new,
It's iterative.
we get
It's all iterative.
inspired, we get inspired by. I
Mhm.
mean, Midjourney, the way it's been trained on these massive data sets is a corpus of human information and accomplishments and information, and it's just huge. So here, I mean, here's another prompt if you want to study it and look at it.
French lace relief layered with Audubon Keith Haring botanicals, softness and muted pops of neon, modern floral, organized layered neat collage, edgy blurred transparent layers, Photoshop effects. I mean, this is incredibly specific. And it would be interesting to see if you rearrange the order of some of these prompts,
Yes.
what it would produce.
Yeah, so that's another thing you should know. And I did a few of these. Okay, so here's some more of these models with a few tweaks in the prompt.
Now, and here's a chance to ask you some of the the nitty-gritty stuff,
Yes.
Sherry. How many times did you have to play with these prompts to get to what you liked?
Usually I can do something within a few hours.
Ooh, a few hours. Okay, so that's
I'll tell you what, it depends on whether I've done it before. And lately, because I've done so much of it, I'm quite fast at knowing how to get what I want.
mhm.
And the engine is much more sophisticated, so it responds. These are from 2 versions ago, so I don't prompt this way anymore. Although I would prompt those ideas, I just would have to structure it a little differently.
When you say a few hours, I
In
get
other
it.
words, I iterate off of what the machine gives me. I look for what's not working in the visual in the language that I've constructed here. So if something's not working, one needs to think, why is it not working? And then rejigger the language or the direction of where you want it to look and give it back to you in that way.
I get that completely. I've worked with this for 5 minutes, where you've worked at it for the equivalent of months. On if you could plot out how many hours of time you've devoted to this, it would be like months of uninterrupted
A year
time.
and a half obsessively.
Okay, right.
Yeah.
Having written out some copy, dropped it into, now I'm working Chat GPT, you're in a more advanced tool than mine, but having written out some copy, dropped it in and said, okay, now change this based on this prompt. And all I do is I hit the regenerate button to say, try it again, just try it again.
But
And what I
that'll
do,
also frustrate you.
well, yeah, but I did it 3 or 4 times and I took the best of each version and I got what I wanted. I didn't need to go to this level because I wasn't trying to achieve what you're trying to achieve.
Right.
But it at least taught me to me, it's just a toy. For you, it's an actual working tool. How hard this can be, and I get what it is. And it's the difference between, Leonard Bernstein's in the news these days because of Bradley Cooper's brilliant performance. But it's like saying that what Leonard Bernstein could do in 5 minutes would take
Right.
a high school student maybe never.
Correct.
Right.
Yes.
I mean, even if they're both trained in musical theory, Bernstein's his
Yes.
working muscles, his
Yes.
skills would just crank out a song in 5 minutes, whereas a student would be like, oh my God, I'm baffled.
And that's what I was kind of disappointed because I know everyone's busy and everyone doesn't understand what this tool does. So I'm like, let me challenge myself to see, can I just teach these really smart people in 2 hours? Like, I'll teach them all my tricks. Heck
Well,
no.
you know, we had,
No,
we,
it's gonna take them a few months.
yeah, we had this conversation, you know, and I'm so glad that you and I chatted before we started recording, because the only comparison that I can think of that allows me to really connect with the challenges that you're facing is when I was a college instructor, and I had a dean ask me if I'd ever taught grammar before. And I wanted the job, even though it was paying pennies, that I said, oh, sure, yeah, I've taught grammar. And I hadn't. I just said yes. And I grabbed the textbook and I started remembering. I had to remember what's a verb, what's a noun, what's a, you know, and past tense, and all the conjugations. And I would tell my students as I was teaching them the basics of grammar, I'm 5 minutes ahead of you in the textbook. And that's really what it was. But
Yeah.
like you are discovering, when you teach something, oh my goodness, that's how you learn it.
Yeah.
Right,
I'll just say-
well, yeah, I
I'll
mean,
just-
I know how to do it, right? It's just hard to, it takes more time than I thought to teach
Yeah,
it.
I
I
believe
have
it.
a silly question about writing
Sure.
your prompts.
Yes.
Does the technology correct for typos? Because I see, or is that on purpose? I see it here where it says transparent and
Right,
transparent.
yeah,
Is
it
it smart
actually is
enough to know?
amazing at ignoring typos.
Okay.
It's generally pretty good at ignoring typos. It gets what you mean,
Huh, I didn't
right?
notice that.
And you should know, like, just because I use Dior fashion vibe, like, you realize Dior has gone through like a million years of fashion. Like, what does that even mean?
Oh, absolutely.
I probably
And-
could leave Dior out, but I use Dior because it's fashion. So I want it to be edgy and fashion and not show me a biker. It's
Now,
a matter
does,
of how you translate it. So I wanted to show you here is like, you know, different models. Also, what you have to understand is some of the same prompts will give you different images. So like this could be the same prompt as the upper one, and you're getting different pictures. So there's this endless reusability to a prompt. It's like, I have the framework, you tweak one little thing if you know how and where, and then you get new things off of the idea. It is,
you,
I'm going to show you something else afterwards. I'll give you my
okay,
book.
well, let me ask you this, Sherry.
Yeah.
I've heard many stories, and I think some of us have had personal experience. When we type in something to say Google, Google has the ability to recognize your biases and will feed you stuff that it thinks you want. Does this tool do the same thing?
No, it's not designed that way. But I will say, I haven't proven this. It kind of gets smarter. I noticed a pattern of iteration that, like, after like 3 or 4 iterations, I'll start again with like the ideas that I built into the iterations, and then it like does it immediately.
So it does kind of anticipate you
It
in a way.
kind of gets it right after, well, I mean, maybe it's just me. I don't know. I noticed like a length of time where it doesn't really know, and then I tweak, and then it's like, boom, done. So I don't know. I can't, like, that's a little bit instinctual. Also, I have really, really good language skills. So
Well, I can see that, and I'm impressed by that. And I'm wondering if it has it ever happened when you were adjusting a prompt or coming up with a new prompt, starting from scratch, where you felt all of a sudden out of control?
no, never feel out of
Okay.
control.
Okay.
I just
Or in other
feel
words,
like,
were you the prompt gave you something that you were just absolutely not anticipating, and you didn't know how to get the tool back to where you wanted to go?
no, I always figure a way out. I'm also a hacker.
Okay.
I'm going to explain to you what I mean by that. Oh, I
Okay.
don't have that picture prepared. Here's a mock-up. So here, like, I have a whole series of how to do mock-ups. I don't have this newsletter out yet. I'm middle of building it. But now I want to show you something else.
Okay.
This is going to be like really cerebral. Are you ready for it?
We can handle cerebral.
I'm ready for anything, man. I'm ready
Okay,
for it.
good. So, like, some people glaze over, but it's eye candy, so you'll have a good time. There's
I've
no
read,
prompt,
I've
there's no
read Nietzsche. You can't get me to get my eyes glazed over, okay?
This is everything I made in here is made with Midjourney. And I started to give this kind of lecture to help people understand what exactly is happening here. We're tapping into an LLM, which is a repository of insane amounts of data. For me, the medium is that hive. I call it like a hive because it's like a repository of so much information. Midjourney has gotten mind-blowingly good at artistic coherence. Again, everything in here I made in Midjourney through prompting. I rarely use a reference image. Everything is with brute force of language.
And again, we need to clarify that you might be able to do this in some other software, but it would take you 10 times as much time.
10 times as much time.
Yeah,
This is a collection of explorations that I've done over the last year. Because of its vastness, it can be very hard to control.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of like
Well, that's what I meant when I said, have you
rogue
started,
politician.
have you started to input prompts and found yourself going off into the, to the netherworld? Said, no, come on, we got to go back. And
I would say
what
it differently. I will say it differently. I
Okay.
find this just started to come to me like the last few weeks as I teach more. When I sketched over my life, when I went to pen to paper for a poem, I didn't always know what I wanted to do. I had a vague idea. There's this inchoate sense of creativity. You kind of know, but you didn't figure it all out yet. And that's just me. I don't know if every creative person works that way, but as I love that process. I mean, I love figuring stuff out when I write a poem. And often I would sketch and not like know what I'm going to sketch or just start playing. And then some idea would appear. I'd be like, yeah, I'm going to draw this. And then there was a mistake. And then like, well, you know what? I'll just draw something else. So a beautiful side effect of Midjourney is that the iterative process and the process of translation forces you to make mistakes because the machine misinterprets what you're saying, sometimes in an amazing way. You're like, huh, yeah, that's a better idea. I'm going to go down that road. Or no, that's not what I meant. And you have to figure out how you're going to force it to do what you want. I'll give you an example. I've been repeating the story because I do it many times, but this is an easy way for me to explain it to you. Too bad I don't have the picture. I didn't prepare it. But there was a time when the word pregnancy was banned on Midjourney. Okay, they try to be PG. And I was doing an ideation for a social media campaign for a nonprofit that was promoting women in tech. And the name of the campaign was using the female goddess of fertility and motherhood, Hera. Okay. And I wanted to celebrate motherhood as part of the feminine, power. One of the ideas I wanted to do was to create this goddess, Greek goddess, as a modern superhero that was pregnant. I spent hours because I knew that pregnant women existed. No way that it wasn't in the data. I needed to get it to be a modern superhero. Marvel superheroes was a great database to tap into, but Marvel superheroes are not pregnant. So I've got this Roman statuesque goddess, because that's how you see her online, which is, the marble statues. I've got Marvel as a data set. They're never pregnant. Wonder Woman's not pregnant. And I needed to be a pregnant woman, which is banned. I used the words of motherhood and expectancy. and a bunch of other ideas. And I finally got a pregnant woman. Beautiful, modern looking Greek heroine that was pregnant.
Okay, that just begs the question. Wouldn't it have just been easier to draw that?
No, absolutely not, because I had 100 of them in different positions.
I don't understand.
And
What do you mean?
and
You had
not
100?
not on the level that it was painted. Painting that would have taken me 2 days. I did it
What
within,
about just drawing? What about just drawing it in Photoshop?
have Photoshop drawing like that? Are you kidding me? That would take days for
Okay.
one.
So what's the purpose though? Is it to create a final piece of art, or is it to use something for ideation to just communicate an idea? Because then
Both.
it's like I go back to back in my days, at least they had guys doing marker comps. They would just come out and there was this guy in town, he could do a marker comp, he stroke, and it would be done. He would do them in moments. And they were just used as, hey, here's the idea to sell the idea. I ended up seeing them appearing on outdoor boards because some clients were saying, I don't need to pay to have an artist actually do that. This is good enough. So just curious.
You can use it for ideation, but very often, because it's so good, you'll get finished assets.
Well, a lot of this is also because we've trained our clients to expect something better than the sketches. I keep referring to a workshop I took in the 90s with Stavros Kosmopoulos, who is long since passed, but he was one of the founding partners of Hill Holiday Cosmopolis in Boston, decades ago. And, he created little booklets that he handed out in this ad week workshop that I took with him on writing copy. He said, make your layouts rough and your ideas fancy.
Yeah.
But that was back in the day. That's from back in the day when everybody just do these marker sketches, and we explain to the client what it is that we intended to do. And not all clients, not
Okay, but
even
let's
many
say-
clients, but some clients were sophisticated enough to know, yeah, this is just your sketch, and we're going to do a photo shoot, or maybe we'll hire an artist or an illustrator to do this. And that's all we needed. But now we create, using our computer skills, we create almost perfect finished art that's really not, and we show it to the client and they expect that's it, it's done.
And or they look at it and they don't buy the idea. They say, oh, I don't like the color of the hair, or I don't like
Yeah.
that, it's like, or the size of that ear. No, I want you to look at the idea, but they can't because we've taken it so far. I took over this agency being a creative director, and everybody was doing tight computer comps. And I said, no, we're going to go back. I want you to do tissues. And one of the art directors didn't know how to do that. So she would make a computer comp and then she traced it to make the marker comp. I was like, come on, So
I think we just
Listen,
need to play
selling
devil's advocate here. We need to play devil's advocate here, Sherry. I mean, again, I've told you, I like what you're doing, and I think this is important, but these are real world issues that we're talking about.
But that's a decision for a creative director or somebody who's an owner
Mhm.
of a team, project manager, to decide, know their client and
Mhm.
say, oh, he's not going to buy it if it's too fleshed out. That's your decision to do that. You can still do that. This is just an amazing, tool.
it's a tool, and that's what I've tried to have my more open mind when it comes to this. So for example, my background is I'm a writer. Okay. I started writing on a typewriter. When I got a computer and word processing, it didn't replace my writing. It actually made it easier because I could more readily do various versions, cut, replace. So I can see a place for it. I was a photographer in film. And in the beginning, digital photography wasn't that good. It got better and better and better and better to the point where, wow, if you ignored it, if you were like Kodak and said, oh, that's never going to take off, you're going to be left behind. So I think there definitely is a place for it.
Let me say it like this. It has many uses, but it is an incredible visualizer. So that if I have something in my head and I know how to finesse the machine, I can show it to you.
And I think that's a powerful argument for it.
However you decide to use it.
I sympathize with what David's saying, because I too started off like everybody else, with pen and paper. Then I went to a typewriter. And then I went to a computer. And one of the lessons that I had to learn, to teach myself when I was using a word processor was to save things, because it was so easy to just erase the line and write over it. And I realized, wait a minute, there was something in that last line and now it's gone.
Mhm.
So you had to do save as and save as and save as. So for example, I just published a memoir, and I went back and looked at the notes that I had kept. I would cut a line, cut a paragraph, cut 2 pages, and put it into a note file and saved that over the course of 6 drafts. I went back and looked at that file. It was over 100 pages long of what I had cut, but I'd kept it.
Save early, save often.
Exactly. So that's not to say that the memoir would have been 100 pages longer if I hadn't cut that. It's just that this is stuff that I took out, but I kept it. It could be fodder for something else. So I don't know if that's part of what you do, but the fact that you're telling me that you go through various prompts to refine your versions of your writing, and I'm going to guess that you keep all your prompts.
Yes, of course.
You do you
They,
save your
they
prompts, then you
save
improve on it.
automatically. They save automatically.
Yeah, that's true. It's true with when even ChatGPT does that. I don't lose it. Although if I do a regenerate, if I produce some copy and I hit regenerate it and I haven't cut and pasted it, I've lost it. I've got to remember to cut and paste.
Yeah, it's different. It's
Yeah.
different. Midjourney's, it's built into the generation process.
I'm playing with the Tonka toy version. You're playing with the nuclear, the B12, the B15, whatever the
Ferrari.
the Ferrari. Exactly right. I'm playing with the little toy. Okay. Well, what I want to give you a chance to show us something else that you wanted to share with us about
Well, so
what you've done and what you've learned.
this artistic rendition is just showing you how I get to these ideas. There is a poetry in the bias. This is how I view it. This is how I feel about it. This is how I use it. That they're understanding a bias means understanding the parameter. And that when you hit a wall, you can use it to your advantage.
Okay.
I don't really know
Well,
how else. I would have to show you specific, instances. And again, this was to talk about the interpretive aspect to this.
Well, what I'm seeing here is that this tool gives you the capacity to do some remarkable things in a fraction of the time it would otherwise take you to do, or maybe not even be able to do on your own.
Well,
If you've
yes,
learned,
because I'm not an expert in
But the
every single medium.
But the catch is you really have to be good at prompting. You have to really master the art of prompting.
Yes.
That's the trick. I
Yes.
I don't mean trick in the sense that it's
Yes, you have
some
to
kind of
master the art
magic.
of prompting. Yes.
You have to have a finesse with the language. You have to be masterful with your language, which, we haven't addressed the impetus for our show, which is creative briefs. Although we're not required to talk about briefs.
You should, though.
Our charge is briefs, briefing, and advertising. We talk about a wide range
Yeah.
of topics, but the creative brief requires the same kind of attention to detail. If you don't get the brief right, everything falls apart after that.
Can I just tell you from my own personal experience?
Please.
This is part of what happens when you do discovery with a client.
Mm.
And you can visualize that discovery. And then you can just save yourself so much aggravation in the process because you can kill ideas much faster.
Let me ask you, look into your crystal ball. What do you see for the next year, 5 years for the tools that we have at our disposal?
Okay, this is how I see it. The execution, the barrier to entry for execution has been lowered. In other words, I do not need to be a master in every single medium now to express myself in just about any medium. In other words, yes, it's not actual textured paint on a canvas, but if I want to use that kind of a style, I can use that kind of style for whatever purposes I decide I need to use it. If it's photography, I can manipulate photography. I've done incredible things with photography, which I'll show you below once I scroll down. And the barrier to entry for expression is lowered. So which means that ideas really matter, because anyone can put anything out there now. So where we used to celebrate an artist suffering for their craft, and we used to want to support them because it contributed so much to our culture. I'm not saying that that's not valuable. It's definitely valuable. But I think the same way stock art and Photoshop, and there's something that happens in tech when, it's more, what's the word? Easily accessible. That the knowledge that's behind it and using the tool is really what matters.
Mhm.
I
Okay.
think, and I spoke this morning on another podcast called The Firehouse, which is a Gossage tribute, Howard Gossage tribute, about how we're entering an age of curatorship. And those are the skills that really will become necessary, and everything that means. Because using Midjourney and prompt design has a very curatorial mindset in that you have to think wide and then very granular. You need to know where to look and where to elicit the information, and then how to put it all together. And that is a curator's job.
Yeah.
It is a
Well,
creative director's job.
right. Well, Sherry, I think you've given us an amazing and fascinating tour of what you have learned and what we can do.
Just wanted to show you a realistic image for a job that I did. That doesn't
Okay.
look fake. Can you see it?
Yes. Well, that'll be interesting to see what some of our viewers think. It is remarkable.
I would quickly scroll through just to show you some of the work that I did for companies. And some of the jobs. I did not do a job for Kohler, but I do spec ads. This was actually using a reference photo of a picture that I took, and then I was able to manipulate my picture further within minutes.
Okay.
And then this is a Popeyes ad, which was based off of an award-winning campaign. And every time I put it next to the real one, they picked this one and thought this was the award-winning one. I've done St. Regis spec, entertainment, branded aesthetics, photography, things that you can dream up. I
Well,
just
this is great, Sherry. I really
Okay.
appreciate you sharing with us this remarkable tool and your skill at it. And I wish you much success in sharing what you know and teaching, because there are a lot of folks out there. Cameron Day, our friend, is just one of them, on how to master this and be in charge. Take charge of this technology.
Yes.
Sherry Horowitz, the AI conjurer. Thank you so much for being with us on the Brief Brothers. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Howard.
We just wrapped up our conversation with Sherry Horowitz, and I've just realized that it's something that Henry and I haven't done before, and I thought this would be a fun opportunity to introduce a new element to our interviews. And I'm going to make you our guinea pig, and that is to do a little postmortem, to have a discussion about our guest. And let me start off by saying I was fascinated, absolutely riveted by Sherry's level of commitment, her professionalism, her deep understanding of this tool. It is one of those things that scares a lot of people. For me, I don't need it to the degree that she is using it. But what really, I think, struck me the most, and this is where I'd like to hear your thoughts too, is her understanding of what a prompt requires revealed how deeply informed she is of many areas of understanding and learning. I mean, she's a poet, so she's very well read, and she understands philosophy, and she loves to read history, and she loves to read. So all of these things contribute to her thinking as she tries to figure out, and you used this word just before we started recording, to tame this new beast that we call AI in order to get the most out of it. And that I found deeply impressive. And I guess the conclusion I would draw is this, to me, proves, or at least adds to the argument in favor of the tool, because it demonstrates that we have to be in control of it. that it's not going to be controlling us, because if you don't know what you're doing, it is almost useless. What are some of your thoughts?
No, I think that's a really good insight. I hadn't really thought about the work and the human creativity that goes into writing the prompts and making that happen, because I didn't really fully understand it. And I think that's one of the things. It's easy for me on the outside to look at this and go, oh, this AI, it's just people just putting in, give me a picture of a dog on roller skates, and boom, it's done, and there you go. When really, if you want to use it, it's going to take it someplace. Like we were talking about before, the computer doesn't write for me. I have to use the tool. It does give me an ability to write in ways that I wouldn't have before. So I came away from it with a new appreciation.
Yeah, I agree. This is going to require some serious brain power and brain thinking to master it. So, all right, that's great.
I think the other thing that I wanted to talk as I jump in here, though, again, I came into this as a skeptic, and I'm still to some degree a skeptic, but I'm smart enough to look at my history and see things that started out being, yeah, that's not really that great, to wow, it's everything. I used to make TV commercials all on film. If you shot it on 35mm film, that's what you had to do. Video production, video for commercials. Oh, that was the cheap stuff. That's never going to replace it. And now it's all done on video. It's amazing. So, and it gives you the ability to move so much faster and do things you couldn't do with a big 35mm camera rig and all that's required. So it can be a tool that can really take us a little farther.
I remember the day I walked into a radio recording studio and all the tape and the reel-to-reel was gone, substituted or replaced by digital. For me, it was overnight. I mean, I hadn't been in a radio studio in a number of weeks, so it was not new to them, but it was like, where did the tape go? And I had to get my head around it. But when I saw the technology at work, I thought, oh my God, this is so much easier. So much easier, and you can get precise cuts. In any event, Sherry's done a great job of teaching us what this can do, but also laying down the gauntlet and requiring us to really bring our own brain power to this. Otherwise, it will be a useless tool.
Good stuff, Howard.
Good stuff, David.
He's Howard Ibeck.
And he's David Moore. And together, David and I are the Brief Brothers. Till next time, bye-bye.
Bye.